It's time for Michigan's newest sports talk show, Mitten Madness.
And here he goes. Defense win championship.
Michigan sports talk from here in Battle Creek. The latest stories, the biggest games, all across the Mitten State.
That's not something you play with.
Streaming live and on demand on the 95.3 WBCK app. Here are your hosts, Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes.
Well, hello there and good morning. It is Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. We're set to talk Michigan sports for the next hour. And plenty to get into with the NBA regular season coming to a close. The Detroit Pistons have clinched a playoff spot, but it could be the 5 seed. 2 huge games against Milwaukee. Obviously, you guys already know what happened last night in the home finale for the Pistons. Sunday, they'll be in Milwaukee, 1 p.m. on ESPN. And if the Pistons won the game last night, then that game has quite a lot of implications. If they did not, then things start to get a little bit sticky. But there's still conversation to be had no matter what scenario. We'll also talk about the Tigers, who have started the season red hot, dismantled the Yankees, won the series 2-1 last week. Now they have a in-division road trip to take on the Minnesota Twins. We'll discuss that. WMU hockey onto the Frozen Four finale and the Detroit Red Wings. So you're telling me there's a chance. Plus picks at the end of the show. Plenty to get into. A lot of fun to be had. Hang out with us for the next hour. If you missed any of the show, download the 95.3 WBCK app. You can listen back anytime, anywhere. All right. Before we dive into anything too serious, DJ, how's it going, man? I saw that you and the guys picked up a dub this weekend.
Yeah, we picked up a huge dub on Thursday, 21-7, and I'm actually very proud of this. That game happens to be a program record for most goals in a game. So we are continuing to set history with this team and continuing to do very well. And also we found out that our conference is a jumbled mess. There are teams beating each other in overtime. There are teams beating teams that are far better than them. There are teams that are losing to teams that are far better than them by close margins. Madawan's probably going to run away with the whole thing, but everyone after that is in a pure battle for second place. So just really excited for where we're going. Western, obviously, playing for the big one. And then the Pistons are back in the playoffs. I could not be happier at this moment.
Yeah, the Pistons basically have a record now, having clinched a playoff spot in the 2025 playoffs. Last year, just 14 wins. That is the biggest turnaround in NBA history. Nobody has ever had such a bad record and then make the playoffs the next year.
Other than the lockout 76ers. Back in like 2014, I think it was one of those
probably
years.
More on a winning percentage.
But, on a well, no, the lockout season was their worst year, and then the next year they came back, did very well. But since they didn't have a full 82 games, it's not often thrown out there. But that 76ers team is in very good conversation with this Pistons squad.
Well, I'm sure that 76ers team is hoping that the NBA never does actually whittle down its schedule, as they likely probably should. But nonetheless, these Detroit Pistons are for real, and they tried to show that on Thursday night, taking out the New York Knicks at home, winning 115-106 after trailing by 13 in the third quarter. Cade Cunningham with a second straight 35-plus point game. Cunningham has been unreal as of late. There were a couple of losses here to get into April, 1-3 heading into that New York game just in the month of April. 4 games out of 5 that were all losses, but nonetheless, the Pistons still in a position that they would like to be in heading into these final 2 games against Milwaukee, and a chance to maybe steal that 5 seed if they manage to sweep this series. And again, we don't know what happened last night. If they manage to sweep the series, then based off of they would be tied in division record. They would both be 7-9. And then it comes down to the conference record. Whoever wins the most games out of this will have the 5 seed, unless Milwaukee picks up just 1 win. So sorry if Milwaukee won last night. Some of this conversation is going to be a little bit nonsensical, but if Detroit is still playing for that tomorrow, then hey, here we are with the Pistons having an opportunity to play the Pacers in the playoffs instead of the Knicks. Even if you just picked up that win over the Knicks, maybe still want to get your feet wet a little bit before you're taking on a team that has a little bit more of a, shooter's shot of making it to the NBA Finals or the Conference Finals or anything like that. A series against, Indiana would be a little bit more palatable for Detroit, but nonetheless, they're just happy to be in the dance, happy for the opportunity, and they've tried to show all of these teams in the East down the stretch that they're ready for them.
Yeah, I think this is the time for the Pistons to really show that this is a new regimen and a new standard for them, that they're going to be in the playoffs and that they're going to battle really good teams. I kind of don't think it really matters who you go out and play. I think this year is already a success. Would you like to win a playoff series? Of course. But if you don't, you take it for what it is. You completely turned this franchise around in less than a year. You got back to the playoffs, which they hadn't done since 2016. And that team wasn't even close to sniffing a victory in that first round game. They got swept like it was nothing by the Bucks. So it's a great opportunity for you to come in and just reestablish who you are as the Detroit Pistons. Would it be better for you to play the Pacers? Probably. I think they're a little closer to your style of play and how you match up. And I think it's a little bit easier for the Pacers to go in, or for the Pistons to go in and possibly win a first round series against the Pacers than the Bucks or the Knicks. But I really like their chances against anyone. This team is young, they're hungry, and they have nothing to lose. The worst team to play is a team that has nothing to lose, a team with no expectations. Not a single person were expecting the Pistons. Well, I was, and many other Pistons fans were, but nobody outside of the Pistons organization or their fans even thought that the Pistons would be this close, let alone in the playoffs and not in the play-in. So they're literally playing with absolutely nothing to lose. Their backs aren't even against the wall. They're just playing. If they lose after the first round, everybody's going to go, you know what? The Pistons did great this year. They made it as the 6th seed, the 5 seed, made the playoffs again for the first time in forever. We love that. And they go out and they win a series or two. People are going to go, whoa, we need to really be looking at the Pistons. There's somebody to watch. Like, this is a total win-win for the Pistons. There's no way for you to lose now that you've secured a playoff spot.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Lions just a couple of years ago. Lions hadn't made the playoffs forever, let alone won a playoff game. That had been even longer. And, they make the playoffs, have a couple of home games, pick up a couple of wins, and now all of a sudden they're perennial Super Bowl contenders. And they've locked down a lot of the young players on their roster to long-term contracts. Nobody expects the Lions to go anywhere anytime soon, as long as Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are in charge. A very similar situation can unfold here for the Detroit Pistons. Maybe not so much when it comes to coaching, because basketball coaches get fired all the time.
Sorry, Michael Malone.
Right. Like, it literally just happened the other day. NBA Finals winning coach gets fired for the Nuggets. But like you said, it's a win-win, man. I think fans do want to see maybe at least just a win at home. Like, don't get swept. I think that's like the one thing that can happen that would be very disheartening. But I don't think this is a team that is going to get swept. I think especially once they have the opportunity to play in LCA and, have that opportunity to pick up a win at home. They just showed their fans that they can beat the Knicks at home under the best of circumstances. So I think as long as they can pick up a win, don't get swept, all's good. But I think we learned a lesson from those Lions a couple of years ago. Like, don't temper expectations so much that you're like, oh, they're not going to do anything special, because you don't know, man. Like the Washington Commanders in last year's NFL playoffs, I don't think people necessarily expected them to be in the NFC Championship. You know what I mean? Like, that's why we play playoffs. You don't know what's going to happen. You just have a gut feeling and you go with your gut. But anything can happen in the NBA playoffs. It's a little bit more volatile. Some of the top-heavy teams are vastly far superior. And getting past Cleveland or Boston this year sounds like a hellacious task. But that's not what you're focused on right now. Right now, you're focused on Milwaukee. And then once the playoffs actually start, you're focused on either the Knicks or the Pacers. You know that you got 7 games to get the job done. And show your best. Do your best. And then get into the offseason based off of whatever happens. I think I fully agree with you, though. This is a massively successful season for the Pistons, and I don't think anybody should be disheartened by anything that happens in these playoffs outside of getting swept.
Yeah, I think my bigger thing here is I absolutely just want them to win the next 2 games. Obviously, we know what happened last night, or you guys do. But Sunday, if they're 2-0 against the Bucks after this weekend on Sunday, they win that game on Sunday. That's all I want. I just want complete chaos unfolding with the whole seeding and everything. Who's moving up? Who's moving down? What happens? Because there's also, let me check, but I think there's a weird scenario where that 6th place team. Okay, no, never mind. They're 40-40. Nope. Never mind. I was going to say there's a weird thing where like one of those teams drops out because of that 6th place team is able to move up and everything, but it's not quite there anymore. The Magic are going to end up being somewhere around 500. But this is just a great chance for things to get really mushy here at the end based off of tiebreakers.
When it comes to what the Pistons have ahead of them, what's really the focal point for success? Is it really leaning on Cade Cunningham and letting him go to work, I don't want to say putting everything on his shoulders, but really leaning on your star player? Or is it that defense and the underneath play that has carried Detroit so far? They've played well under the glass, and they've played solid defense. And you know what they say about defense and championships. Which direction? I mean, I know you got to have a solid balance, but what's the more important factor here for success in these playoffs for the Pistons?
It's going to be defense. Like you said, it's the balance, especially when it comes to the Pistons. The Pistons have only won NBA championships when they have been extremely balanced.
Yeah.
But it's the defense. You're going to need better defense. You're going to need to close out possessions with rebounds. You're going to need to make teams uncomfortable. You can score the ball from all 3 levels. That's been shown all year. Can you get a stop is the true question.
No doubt. All right, we'll head to break and come back and talk about the Tigers a little bit. They're looking out the gates, playing cold weather baseball too. Hey, that's how we do it in the Motor City. We'll talk about the Tigers next here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. All right, we're back here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. Let's talk Detroit Tigers. They're 7-5 on the season, but I don't think that speaks to just how good they have looked. Won the series against the Yankees 2-1, dropped the last game 4-3. Flaherty taking on his high school teammate Max Fried on the mound, and Max Fried, I don't know, dude, I'm doing my best here. They were on the mound 1-on-1, and the Yankees came out on top 4-3. Nonetheless, you kind of ignore just the outcome of that Dodgers series because they looked fine in those 3 games to open the season. They're looking very, very good. Bats are hot and heavy. Kerry Carpenter is playing out of his mind. Actually, it's the pitching that's a little bit on the downside when you look at, league-wide rankings. The ERA at 3.5 ranks 21st, and that's across all the pitchers that are out here for the Tigers, and they have one of the better pitching staffs out there, namely because they have the best pitcher in baseball in Tyreek Skubal, but he only playing so many games, so kind of is what it is. You won't see Skubal this weekend against the Twins. His next appearance is set for the first game in the road series on Monday against the Milwaukee Brewers. Flaherty will follow, and then Olsen as well as we continue the rotation there. But nonetheless, this Minnesota series this weekend, it is in division, so it is pretty important. With Detroit leading the division, it would be nice to get a series win here and continue to grow that lead a little bit, try to keep pace with Kansas City, who is just a half game back as we're speaking at the moment from Detroit. I mean, what's standing out to you when it comes to what the Tigers have done out of the gate here? I mean, a 6-2 and 5-0 victory over the Yankees. I know it was cold. I know they moved the times, all that sort of stuff, but the Yankees are supposed to be one of the best teams of baseball. They started the season really hot with those new bats that damn near seemed like cheating, and Detroit should have got him first anyway because you wrote the article, guy from Michigan created the bats, but I digress. I mean, the Tigers look good. I know White Sox are what they are, but handling business against New York at home, looking good on the road against LA. What's not to like?
Like you said, I guess just the pitching a little bit, but like I think that you got to get back in a groove. It takes a little bit of time. You're not going to come out throwing your best games at the beginning of the season. In contrary, I don't think you come out batting your best games at the beginning of the season either. So for this team to be hitting so well, really only says that they could potentially get better or worse. And I'm hoping that it's on the better. If this team continues on the trend that they're on, I could see an AL Central pennant going up at the end of the year, and then they could really make a run in the playoffs. I think the bigger thing is the fielding has to keep helping the pitching out, and they got to keep hitting. As much as the bats can be going right now, they could very quickly stop, and then you have to figure out how you're going to win games if you can't, bring in runs. And we saw last year, they have trouble winning games when they can't bring in runs. Not that they don't have the pitching. Those games were always good and they were close. They were losing games 2-1, 3-1, 3-0, 2-0. But once again, their pitching's good. Your pitching can be as good as it wants. But if you can't put runners on base and you can't bring them back around to score, it does not matter how good your fielding, your defense, and your pitching is. You're going to lose games because you have to be able to hit the ball and bat in runs. So I think they just have to maintain focus and stay where they are. They're in a very good spot right now. I think they're one of the young teams that teams are looking at and preparing for, but are still overlooking a little bit. I think they're still going, hey, these are the Detroit Tigers. They haven't done, a lot in a little while. If we just go out and play our game, we'll win. And then the Tigers are showing up and improving. Hey, you got to do a little more than show up and hit a couple hits and throw a couple good pitches. You got to come out here. You got to battle. You got to play for 9 innings and win a game, because we're coming for all 9 innings and we're going to play hard until the last out is there. So I think they're in a great position in terms of really addressing the weakest part of their team last year in terms of batting and bringing that around this year. And then they just got to catch the pitching back up.
Yeah, no doubt. And like you said, I mean, they're young. Some of their best players are all under 30, whether it's Torkelson or Skubal or Carpenter. Like when you can lean on guys who are, in the prime of their career, it really goes a long way and it helps out. I will say what's a little strange to me, and I know like we say it every time we bring up power rankings, that they don't really matter because they're just the opinions of the guy who was, ordered to write the article. But Detroit being ranked 12th in the MLB doesn't sit right with me, because I feel like everybody is acknowledging how well they're playing. I mean, the issues from this time last year are non-existent. The pitching is even better. Well, maybe not even better, but there's reason to believe that the pitching is going to be even better, I guess I should say. But the hitting is astronomically better, but especially because you've currently got Carpenter and Torkelson both doing what they got to do. And I don't know. I look around the league and I see a whole bunch of teams that are up above them that are not significantly better than the Tigers, because it seems like a foregone conclusion, certainly. But I mean, it's not like they're not going to be gunning for the playoffs towards the end of the season. It's not like we can't visually see the improvements from the team that fought their way to make the playoffs last year. Like, they're carrying over their successes. Like, what's Detroit got to do to earn some damn respect around here on the baseball field? Because I feel like they look a lot better than their record indicates, but it's also just, I feel like there's got to be more respect given to this team.
So I think I'm about to probably get canceled by a bunch of sports fans out there.
It's 95.3 about WBCK. You can say whatever you want.
Fair. But I think I'm in a minor group of people here, and I have a very unpopular opinion when I say that I hate recency bias. I absolutely hate recency bias. I think it's the dumbest thing in sports ever. I don't think a returning national champion should just automatically be the number one team.
True.
Did they actually return talent? Do they actually have more talent coming in?
True.
What is the dynamic like now? Are they still the best team in the country? Probably. And that goes for all sports. Yeah. Every team. Even just because you're the defending champ, maybe we can go a little different for pros, because for the most part, there's a lot of contract and stuff. You are bringing back a lot of the same team. But is the dynamic going to be the same? Does somebody retire off that team? Does somebody leave in free agency? Are there any trades made? What are the rookies going to come in like? Do they mess with the flow and the camaraderie of the locker room? What is the chemistry like with everyone who's been brought in now? Those are all questions that don't get brought up with recency bias.
So who are you going after? Because the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. I don't think anybody's like contending against that. And I don't think that's what you're saying at all.
No,
but the Tigers looked really good against the best team in baseball on the road.
So I think my bigger thing with this is like recency bias doesn't paint the picture for the season.
Okay.
You know, like, do I think that there probably are a few teams looking at the power rankings that the Tigers are better than, that are ahead of them. And that goes off of the sample size we have for this year. 12 games. In those 12 games, the Tigers are better than a handful of those teams that are above them. But when you look at the recency bias, people are going, okay, the Tigers have been good for 8 months. Are they really better than these people who have been good for 3 years? I don't know. No, because that's not what power rankings are.
Yeah.
Power rankings are who are the best right now.
Yeah, you also can't project into the future. Be like, yeah, Boston's going to be one of the best teams in baseball, but they're not playing like it right now.
You can't say
then
that.
Lower them on the power rankings.
Lower them on the power rankings until they play the kind of ball you're expecting them to play.
It's a long season.
And that's my problem with recency bias, is that it affects all the wrong things. I think even going back to March Madness, North Carolina getting in, I think was a recency bias thing. They're recently and forever have been better than some of the teams that they were matched up against for that last spot. And I think they were given that spot because of their recency bias. Because the ACC wasn't nothing this year, by the way. But because of who North Carolina is and how they've been the last couple of years, let's not forget, they just won a championship in what, 2018? 2017, one of those years? That's crazy. That's crazy. So, of course, they're going to get a little bit of bias, and people are going to go, North Carolina is probably better than XY, West Virginia, who, I don't know if they've ever won a national basketball championship. But that doesn't mean West Virginia was actually better than North Carolina this year, because they weren't. Get the recency bias out of here and look at teams for what they are doing at the very moment or what they have done in that culmination of that season and that season alone.
There's a limit on the phrase, what have you done for me lately? Keep it very close to home. Like, don't stray too far just to meet whatever narrative it is that you want to spin. And listen, all sports writers are guilty of it, and I'm not, absolving myself either, but it is I totally agree with what you're saying, man. It's what is going on right now. And right now the Tigers, they don't look like the best team in baseball. They don't look like a top 5 best team in baseball, but they look pretty damn good. And they're not a fringe playoff team, I don't think. And I think as we get throughout the season, because that's the thing about baseball. You play 162 games, dude. You're going to have to deal with injuries. You're going to have to deal with situations. And then halfway through the season, you're probably going to make a significant change to your roster that is going to determine what happens for the rest of the year. I anticipate that when we get to that point, a lot of Tigers fans are going to be very excited about where the Tigers are at and what addition they are going to make a title run, because that's the situation they find themselves in. Competing on the pocketbooks with the Dodgers and the Phillies and the Yankees isn't the way that the Tigers are going to do it. So those teams are always going to look a little bit better, but the Tigers are all right. They are not the 12th best team in baseball. They're certainly a lot better than that. And I think we're all excited to see what they can accomplish this year with what they have and what they might get later down the road. All right, we'll take a break there. When we come back, it's time to talk a little bit of hockey. The Detroit Red Wings are telling the state that there's a little bit of a chance, while Western Michigan, they think they have a little bit more than just a chance at bringing home a national championship. We'll talk about it next here on Mitten Madness 95.3 WBCK.
Detroit sports fans, Wolverines and Spartans alike, this is your sports show, Mitten Madness, with Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes on 95.3 WBCK.
Here on Mitten Madness 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. It's time to talk a little hockey because, first of all, Western Michigan picked up the dub, beating the defending champions out in Denver 3-2 on Thursday night to advance to its first Frozen Four title game. They will take on Boston University, who, let's be real, has a lot of experience in this situation. That being said, huge opportunity here for WMU, for the Broncos to pick up its first national championship, at least in hockey. And seems like a really good opportunity for them, though I will say, even being somebody who doesn't know a lot about college hockey, I recognize Boston University is a tough task to try to win a championship off of.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to look at here. First and foremost, congratulations to Western. Congratulations to the Lawson Lunatics. And the NCHC is one of the best conferences for hockey in college, men's college hockey. When you think about it, Denver has multiple national championships. Minnesota Duluth has multiple national championships. St. Cloud State has multiple national championships. North Dakota has been to the Frozen Four amongst other teams in the NCHC. Western is just the next in what is a great conference. So it's not that Western isn't prepared. It's not that Western isn't ready. It's not that Western doesn't necessarily have the components to be successful here. They've just never done it physically. They've never been here. But everybody they played has. The NCHC is full of teams that are used to being in this position and play very good hockey. The NCHC might be the best college conference for men's hockey. So that's something to keep in the back of minds. Western was actually the number 4 overall seed in the tournament this year. So that's also something to keep in mind, that Western was one of the best 4 teams in the country. So this is what they thought this is where they thought they were going to be, and is a part of the whole accumulation of their squad. But as you mentioned, Boston University is used to being here. The Terriers have won multiple national championships, and they're perennial Frozen Four members. They're used to being in this space, so it is not any nerves, nothing that they're not expecting. Their coach has been here before and knows how to handle it. It's going to be a great game. I think the main thing for Western is that you have momentum on your side. You're here for the first time ever. You're going to have tons of fans there. And you just beat the defending national champs by 1 in double overtime. You scored, 20 seconds into the second overtime. That's huge. Having that momentum, winning that kind of game, having that adrenaline rushing, it pushes you forward and wants you to win, the national championship. All that's standing between you is the Terriers from Boston and yourself. So don't make mental mistakes. Go out there and play hard. And I really don't see an opportunity for a loss here for Western. Obviously, it sucks to lose the national championship, but you have done so many first for this program that this team will forever be remembered.
For sure, and it's going to be exciting. I mean, we'll cheer them on, see if they can pull it out, win a national championship in the world of college hockey. Now, on to the Detroit Red Wings. So, while you were discussing that, I'm looking at the Red Wings in the standings, 36, 35, and 7, 79 points on the season. It's a lost cause. There is very, 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 very little room to wiggle when it comes to the end of the season. There are a few games left, and Montreal has still not completely solidified themselves as the second seed in the playoffs. Montreal, Columbus, and New York, the Rangers, that is, are all ahead of Detroit. Whereas, and still, Detroit is 8 points behind Montreal. Good luck here. And even in the power rankings on ESPN, they missed the playoffs. But Tampa, Dallas, New Jersey, and Toronto are on the docket. 3 games on the road, and Dallas will be at home. The Red Wings have not looked good on the road here recently. They haven't won a road game since March 27th, and even that is just a break in a long line of losses on the road. Nonetheless, it's not completely over, DJ, but I mean, at some point, these Red Wings are going to have a fork stuck in them, and they're going to have to look into the offseason and look at a core group that, had decent goaltending, stayed mostly healthy, had a little bit of a resurgence with a new coaching staff mid-season, and still found a way to not only fall short of the playoffs just like they did last year, but I think it was even more disappointing because at least last year there was some excitement and like, here's what they got to do it. And this year it's just been the losses have stacked up so much, especially on the road, that they have just not been able to recover. So what's your impression here on the Red Wings, what they've got to do here over the last week or so of the regular season and start heading into the offseason?
Look at how you can make yourselves better all around. I think it's time to kind of look at some guys' contracts, look at how guys have been performing, and it's time for you to make a push. I think what people saw last year is what they wanted out of the Red Wings, a team that's going to fight, a team that's going to be here in the end. Even if you don't make the playoffs, you're at least making it exciting. You're at least giving us something to root for and to look forward to, and that's just not what the Red Wings were this year. I think the core is fine. I think the young core you have is good. I think it's time to kind of look at the pieces you have around that and to begin to get some better pieces in here. Stevie Y, you've done this before, man. You went down to Tampa Bay and you made it happen. Tampa isn't even like a big hockey place. People like hockey down there, but not like they do here.
I mean, they like the Lightning down in Tampa.
I mean, yeah, but like, but you know what I mean? Like, just overall.
Right. It ain't hockey town.
It ain't hockey town. You could get anybody to come and play for Detroit. Like, players grow up, even not being from America or Michigan or anywhere near here, wanting to play for the Red Wings because of the team that they are, the franchise, hockey town, Detroit, all of it, the original six, like all of that plays into this. You can go want and need. Go make it happen. Bring this team back to what it used to be when you were here donning the C, wearing 19 in a Red Wings jersey. You know how much it means to bring Hockey Town a championship. Do it again. I think now it's time for coaching staff, front office, GM, executive director, all those things to start making the moves they need. The guys are playing on the ice. They're doing with what they can with what they have. It's time to make that move and make yourself a competitor by going and getting some help.
For sure. That's the name of the game in the offseason is to get better. But whether that's going to be a flash free agent signing or not remains to be seen. I don't know if that's really the most realistic thing for him. But nonetheless, I mean, you've got to find a way to get better and get back to the playoffs, right? Like the Pistons have unlocked it. The Pistons found the code. They're in the playoffs. Tigers found the code. They're in the playoffs. Lions are one of the best teams in the NFL. Catch up, man. Let's do it. Let's have a year where we go 4 for 4. We thought the Red Wings would get there before the Tigers and the Pistons did, and here we are still waiting on the Red Wings. They're better than this. Hopefully it's just a matter of time. Hopefully next year, man, we'll continue to see what changes they make in the offseason to reach that goal and get there. But in the meantime, we'll root on the Broncos as they try to pick up that national championship against Boston in the Frozen Four finals. But next, we're going to cheer on ourselves. We're going to try to make some picks and see where those standings are. We got UFL games. I think we got a fight and some baseball as well. We'll make our picks for the big games of the weekend next here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK.
95.3 WBCK.
Here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes back to make our picks for the week. It is April, so there's only so many things to pick. We're going to pay some love to the UFL, who is in week 3 this week with some interesting matchups. So we'll have a few of those games. We'll also pick the Tigers and Twin Series and the National Championship of Hockey. But before we do that, DJ is going to update us on those standings.
Well, I did pretty solid last week, 4-2 week for me, 3-3 for you. So I've inched one game closer, just one game behind now for me. I'm sitting at 29-19. You are 30-18.
Well then, let's not have a bad week.
I'm coming.
So we can keep this lead going. First up is going to be that Tigers series against the Twins. Now, this is the first, I believe. Yeah. No, this is the second series in division for the Tigers after sweeping the White Sox in their home opening series. Back out on the road, it is Olsen, then Job, then Mize on the mound in that order for the Tigers pitching staff. So no Screwball or Flaherty, so might be a little bit tough. We also don't know what happened on the Friday night game. So DJ, who's winning this series between the Tigers and the Twins?
It may sound like a homer, but I'm just going to take the Tigers. They look great so far. They have all the right pieces. And interesting enough, Olsen is tied with Screwball and Flaherty for wins this year. And actually our highest winning pitcher at the moment is Casey Mize at 2-0. Yeah. I think Job is actually the only starting pitcher right now who doesn't technically have a win credited to him. So I actually trust the Tigers to go out and continue to play well this weekend and to get another in-conference or in-division series win, which will come out very important later in this year. I'll take the Tigers over the Twins in what will probably be a sweep.
I agree. I don't know about a sweep, just because I don't know what happened on Friday. I don't want to get too involved, but I do think that they'll at least pull out 2 wins. I'm going to take the Tigers as well.
That's going to send us over to arguably the most exciting game of the weekend. Saturday, April 12th, 7:30 p.m. in St. Louis. The 4-ranked Western Michigan University Broncos taking on Boston University on ESPN2, ESPN Plus for the men's hockey college national championship. The Broncos' first time in the championship game, first time in the Frozen Four. Boston University, they've been here countless times. They've done this countless times. They've won this countless times. Can the Broncos do what they've never done before and be the top of the college hockey pinnacle at the end of Saturday night? Or will Boston reign supreme once again?
Screw it. I'm going to be a homer. I'm a root for the hometown team. After picking up a emotional dub on Thursday, I think they turn around and do it again on Saturday. Complete the trifecta, win the whole damn thing, Western. We're rooting for you.
Yeah, I think I tipped my pick a little bit earlier when I was talking about I don't really see a loss here for them in any kind of way, and this is including in the game. I think Western just has too much momentum behind them, too much excitement. They're really ready to go, and they've been playing some of the best hockey the country has seen. Not just for their conference, not just in the tournament, but all season long. They were the number 1 team at one point this year in the country, something the Western Michigan Broncos have never done before either. A lot of firsts for them this year, and I think that continues with them getting their first national championship ever.
All right, let's get over to the UFL. I got a USFL matchup to discuss, and it is between 2 0-2 teams. The Houston Roughnecks and the Memphis Showboats have stumbled out of the gate, and now somebody's gotta win. DJ, who do you got between the Showboats and the Roughnecks in the UFL this weekend?
I don't do a lot of transitive property things.
Transitive property does not exist in sports.
Because it does not exist in sports. But one thing I do in sports is keep track of trends. The Showboats are averaging exactly 12 points per game because they've scored 24 points in 2 games. They have scored exactly 12 points in both of their games.
Monumental.
Monumental. On the other side, the Roughnecks are averaging 7.5. They scored 6 in one game and 9 in the other, which means neither one of these teams is really putting up touchdowns.
Wait. Has either of these teams scored a touchdown yet?
It does not sound like either one of these teams has scored a touchdown yet this year, which means 2 things. We could see arguably another 6-9 Super Bowl-like game with the Rams and I think it was Patriots that year.
Nice.
A while ago. Or we could see an absolute offensive explosion like the Pac-12, Big 12 a couple years ago. Who knows? Neither one of us, but I like trends, and I think the Memphis Showboats will at least put up 12 and will hold the Roughnecks to less than 10 like they have been throughout the year. or something along those lines. I'm just going to trust Memphis to put up more points than the Roughnecks because they've done so throughout the year so far.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. The Showboats have given up more points than the Roughnecks, or at least just one. The Showboats have given up 43, and the Roughnecks have given up 42. Both these teams obviously play bad football, so it's a matter of who plays worse, and it looks like Houston is... I mean, the name of the game is score more points than the other team. Houston's struggling to score any points whatsoever, so I'm going to go with Memphis.
That is going to take us to another game in the XFL. Excuse me. Let me make sure I got this right. Yes, the XFL. One of the many teams that is 2-0. There are 3 of them, and they're all in the XFL. The Defenders, 2-0, traveling to St. Louis to take on the Battlehawks, who are also 2-0. St. Louis arguably is the most complete team in the UFL, and I don't mean that in terms of the talent on the field, the coaching staff, anything. I mean in terms of support and fans and everything else that goes around.
We love the Battlehawks.
So who comes out of this 3 p.m. matchup on Sunday on ABC/ESPN Plus undefeated, and who takes their first loss of the year?
I mean, I'm not picking against the Battlehawks. Caw-caw. Take down the DC Defenders.
Yeah, I think for me here, it's this being a home game for the Battlehawks. Yep. Like I just mentioned, the city has really gotten behind them. I think they really missed the Rams, so having the Battlehawks back in town gives them something to look forward to, especially in terms of football. And they're showing out, they're showing up, and the team is taking use of that extra momentum and running with it. I think they beat the Defenders in what will be a close game.
Yeah, they had a kid on that team last week for the Battlehawks, score 3 touchdowns against the Brahmas, and St. Louis absolutely loves the Battlehawks. That is for sure. Which game did I have? I had the Brahmas and the Panthers, correct? All right. So, No. Oh, I had the other one. Renegades and Stallions. That's right. I wanted to talk about the team from Alabama that is shockingly 1-1. They lost their opening game of the season, but they did pick up a dub up here in Michigan, and got one back there on the Panthers, which technically puts them in first place in the USFL, even if the ESPN standings don't necessarily say as much. The Stallions used to be in the best team on that side of the bracket in this league, period. But now they're going to have to take on one of those other 2-0 teams from the XFL side, and it's the Arlington Renegades, who are cooking this year. They are very, very good. 44 points on the season so far through 2 games. That's a lot of points in this league, because only one other team has scored more, and that's the Battlehawks. So, DJ, the Stallions stumbled out of the gate a little bit, but gave the thing back to the Panthers last week to get back even. They look pretty good. Are they good enough to beat the Renegades?
No, I'm going to go with the Renegades here. Once again, I think this is trends speaking. I think a team that comes off of a win likes to keep winning. So far, Arlington has won 2 games in a row. I think they're going to look to continue to win. I think the other piece is the XFL is a little closer in competition in terms of having to stay. Like, they got to keep winning. Yeah. Once they lose, they're not looking at 1 and maybe not even the 2 seed. Yeah. Which is important in terms of getting in the playoffs in those kind of scenarios. So I think that's what's on the Renegades' mind, is we have to stay in competition with the Defenders, the Battlehawks, and remain, winning games as long as they are. So I'm going to give Arlington an edge here.
Yeah, there's probably some peace of mind for Birmingham and Michigan both. They're probably going to make the playoffs. Knowing that 2 weeks after the season is crazy, but the Roughnecks and Showboats look bad. But I disagree with you. The Stallions are at home. They play very well at home. I don't think they've actually ever lost a game at home in their existence. I might have just pulled that out of my ass. I don't know. But they are also 4.5-point favorites. The Stallions aren't going anywhere. They're one of the best teams in the league, so I think they're going to pick up a much-needed win here and send the Renegades down to 2-1.
That's going to get us to our last game of the weekend. This one also going down here in Michigan is Sunday, April 13th, noon, ABC, ESPN Plus. Your 1-1 Michigan Panthers are taking on the 0-2 Brahmas. The line is Michigan at 6.5. 35.5 is the over-under. I might be smashing that under, by the way. And I don't even sports bet.
Hey, listen, it's the UFL. If you are smashing the over, you got issues, you better call that number at the bottom of your app.
Please call it ASAP. You hear me? But the real question is, can the Panthers defend home field, or are the Brahmas able to come in and get their first win of the year and try and turn things around for themselves?
Listen, the Brahmas are cursed. The Brahmas are cursed. They're not allowed to be good in this league because they're named after the owner of the league. Like, you're screwed, dude. Like, you're not going to get anywhere. 18 points on the season, 59 given up. No, the Brahmas are bad. And the Battlehawks really put a shine on that last week. So I think the Panthers do it again at home in Ford Field. They are going to wreck Crew. Panthers pick up their second win of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bigger thing here for me is that one team has something in the win column already and the other does not. It really starts to bother you, and you start to make uncharacteristic mistakes, and you really get in your own head when you haven't gotten that first win yet. You start to really overcompensate for it, and I think that's something the Brahmas may run into. But also, I'm a little worried. I'm definitely a homer over here today with my picks, which could go really bad or it could go really good. So getting us into the weekend, we're pretty similar down the board. We're both taking Western to win their first college national championship in hockey. We're both taking the Showboats, the Panthers, and the Battlehawks in their UFL games. Both taking the Tigers to beat the Twins in their series. I've got the Renegades, and you got the Stallions. I think it's time for you to send us into another great weekend.
All right, let's do it. Not much going on the station this weekend, and we'll see you guys next week at 10 a.m. for more of the conversations around Michigan sport teams. Obviously, we'll be talking Pistons playoffs next week and closing down the story most likely for the Red Wings as well. But we'll also be one step closer to the NFL draft, which means plenty to get into for the Lions and maybe the Wolverines and Spartans as well. We'll see what's happening next week here on Mitten Madness, Saturdays at 10 a.m. If you missed any of the show, check it out on the app, 95.3 WBCK app. It's available on Android and Apple devices. And you can take the show with you anywhere or anytime. Listen at your convenience. And, we'll see you guys next week, so take it easy.
Join Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Miss the show or want to run it back? Stream Mitten Madness on demand on the WBCK app. Sponsored by AirwayCashForJunkCars.com.